Hello everyone, this is Michael Jacobs. Welcome to 2016 and Season 8 of the Explosive Golf Show. It's really hard to believe that it's been 8 years already, 2008 when we started our first discussion forum at X Golf School, and 8 years later, you could look back at all the years of the Explosive Golf Shows and see the progression of the things we've done. And it's really amazing how far we've come in 8 years. I look back at some of the videos from 8 years and it's fascinating. So what I wanted to start the season off with is a great discussion about baseball and golf. We all know as kids, I don't know about the current generation, but definitely when I was a kid, and most of you watching were a kid, playing baseball was the first thing that you did. That was like one of the first sports we all did. We all had our childhood heroes when we were always looking at America's pastime, which is baseball. Mine was Ryne Sandberg, big Chicago Cubs fan, and watching Rhino play baseball was my daily thing, and I loved it. So many people come to our school here, and you're all watching, and we always say baseball, or I bring up, did you play baseball? Were you a home run hitter? Were you a singles hitter? Things like that. And people always have wondered, I think, is there a correlation between a baseball swing and a golf swing? Well, obviously the ball is moving in a baseball swing and you're reacting to it. In a golf swing, the ball's standing still. So there are definitely some differences. One is struck with the body standing up more, which is definitely a bigger advantage than kind of putting your body in a strange position, bent overwise, and hitting something off the ground. When we play golf, we have a whole different bag of clubs. They're all different lengths. We have an ever-changing terrain, and in baseball, pretty much the batter's box is the batter's box. So there are some definite differences in the game. So what commonalities can we find between a baseball swing and a golf swing? Well, that's one of the things we've done. As we've done our own little studies and research on the golf swing, we have done baseball as well. And we're going to compare a really interesting concept to you in baseball and golf. One of the biggest differences between the two sports is in baseball, the batter generally, in a standard technique, holds the bat pretty high up or straight up when they are getting ready to hit their, waiting for the pitch. And then during the motion that they're getting ready to strike the ball with, there is quite a bit of pitching. When I say pitching, changing the level of the bat for when they come down and strike the ball. So the motion the bat moves on through the hitting area is pretty levelish. Like if you look at this animation, this is an actual baseball swing in one of our programs, and you could see early on that when you look at these yellow lines here, that's the actual bat, and you'll notice that they're really close together, these lines, and then these are the corresponding yellow lines as the bat comes around. So what that means is the reason they're so close together is because it's moving so slowly. So early on, the bat moves pretty slowly as the batter starts to, you can see, drop the plane of the bat to more of a level to the body hitting area. So they drop the plane of the bat pretty slowly. It comes more to a level hitting area like Ryne Sandberg is here, and then there might be some type of upward or downward strike. But you could see, for all intensive purposes, the motion of the bat becomes a lot less change in the angle of it when it's going through the hitting area. Now, how does that differ in a golf swing? Well, I grab a golf club here. In a golf swing, the golf club on the way back will rise up from its original resting position that we start off on. So the golf club will climb up, and then as it comes down, it will flatten off a little bit. Now, that flattening off move in golf is something that's always talked about. And it's things like having the right sequence of body movements and being in a spot towards the top of the backswing where you could change directions in the right way that helps the golf club do that little bit of laying back, which is not as much as was in a baseball swing. And then you could see when the golf club comes around into contact, you could see that the yellow lines, just like these yellow lines, become pretty stable. So you could see this is leveled up from the ground and this is more at the ground. But a commonality is this initial part. When you look at these solid yellows, what you're going to see is that both the golf club and the bat move very slowly when the batter or golfer starts their swing down to the ball. So what does that mean? Well, I think a lot of people have gotten into a rhythm, so to speak, of seeing this move so slowly that they start to think that they need to pause at the top or try to move the club slowly. It's in that transition area where the body is doing its biggest amount of work and power to try to get the transfer everything out to the club or the bat. So although the club and the bat move very slowly here in their initial start of the downswing, the body might be doing its work and its fast work, ultimately to transfer it to the batter club. So that's one of the most interesting commonalities, is that both have a very slow-moving instrument to start the swing down, and then they change in plane a little bit, and then it becomes pretty stabilized, and you can see they're pretty close to equal spaces between each one of the shafts. I think one of the most interesting things as being a golf instructor now for 19 years has been the development, and especially the thought process of people see a golfer swinging a club and they see a lot of lag in the swing, right? They see the club trailing back behind the hands and it looks powerful and everybody's talked about its desirable nature. And that's great. But here's something I think we want ex-golf school students to know, and those of us in postmodern golf, which you could join us on Facebook. That's our new discussion forum where we have all our discussions. Is that, yeah, that move where the bat or the golf club is moving slowly and the club looks like it's laying back, that's going to help you move your body faster and get yourself in a desirable location to then transfer everything to the bat. You want to, as a golfer, or even a batter, transfer the energy from you to the bat or the club. And we want the bat or the club to swing out. There is a point where we want it to swing out. When it swings out, it starts to take the energy from you and you transfer it to the bat or the club. So when we look at a baseball player, and we look at first body moves and then ultimately how they transfer the energy to the bat, there are some similarities in golf. And there's a very important thing that we found, and we feel that we're going to be the first to talk about it. Now, looking at sports has been done for a long time. Here's a great article in Golf Digest from way back when of Brett Hull, his golf swing versus his hockey swing when he was on the Detroit Red Wings. So this has been done for a long time. But what we're going to uncover for you now is something you've never heard before or discussed, and how we're going to translate it to golf, and how the batter or the golfer is transferring the energy to the club. So what have we discovered? What has my mentor, Dr. Stephen Nesbitt, myself discovered? Well, we've been working on some concepts for a while. And one of the new elements of the swing in our convention, our Jacobs 3D convention, is called the center of curvature. Now, we have a few of them. We have center of curvature in golf of the hub path, the club head, and the overall club. And we could do the same thing in baseball. So let's tackle baseball first. And we're going to look at the center of curvature of the baseball bat itself. And let me explain to you what that means. Let's take the human out of the mix for a second. And let's just say we had a bat. And the bat is up here. It could be anything holding it. Like my friend Brian Manzella said, you could hold it in your teeth and still create things. But anyway, if we just had a bat moving, whether I'm holding it or not, that bat is being pulled around, it's being pushed, and it's being twisted. And when it's moving, there is something that it's rotating around in space. That's the point of interest. So we map that out by looking at the center of curvature. We take a look at what the bat's moving, we fit a little local circle to it, and then we look for what it's curving around at that point, irrespective of who's holding it or how you're holding it. And what's of interest is where in relation the center of curvature of the bat or the club is in relation to the path of the hub, which is right here between your hands, during a baseball swing or a golf swing. What do I mean? Well, here's the bat head moving around, hits the ball, path of the bat. Actually, it's the center of mass of the bat, but that's fancy. Here, blue, we have the path of the hands. So here's the path of the hub for the batter. And then the white is actually what the bat is rotating around. So what I mean by that is if we just isolated the bat and we looked at how it was curving at any instant in time, we map out what that bat is moving around. And we think that this is really important. And we're going to relate it to these pictures and relate it to your golf swing in a second. So if we look at the path of what the bat is moving around, we'll notice that it starts a little above the path of the hub, and then you can see it coincides with the path of the hub for a while before it starts to move up. And you can see it's just before the impact area on where it starts to move up. And we think that this is the most important thing that you could learn about your batting or your golf swing. It's never been discussed before. So what does this mean? Well, when these two lines are together, when what the bat is actually curving around and the hub path line up, that means that at that instant in time, the bat or the club, the golf club in a golf swing, is actually rotating around the hands at that point. It's curving literally around the hands at that point. So that's really the only time in a batting swing or a golf swing where we choose to analyze what the hub or hands are doing in a golf swing or a baseball bat. That's the only time where your hands truly are totally influencing the bat or the club. Then, a signifier of strength and skill, in our opinion, is when this curvature of the bat starts to move up and diverge from the path of the hub. So what do I mean by that? Well, you could see that down when the batter is coming around, you could see that what the bat is curving around is the same as the path of the hands. And then just before the impact, what the bat is curving around actually grows and goes above the hands and is now somewhere in between the hands and the golfer. So there's been a swinging out of the bat, a transfer of energy of the bat, and what the bat is actually moving around has grown above the hands. So we don't analyze the hands and wrists at this point because the bat is now curving around something that's much higher. So the golfer or the batter has complete control over this. So the batter or the golfer has complete control of how they adjust the path of how the bat or club rotates. So you as a golfer have complete control over this. So that's how you could affect your inputs to the club the whole entire time, even when your hands and wrists have been compromised. So this is a little zoom in of this particular area when what the bat is curving around starts to grow. So you could see that's the point the bat is rotating around. So the batter might be doing something through that hitting area. If it's right here, that's the point that they're going to use their body, or the golfer is going to use their body, arms, or elbows to give the club a little extra input. And it's growing this above, which is a level of skill and something that's very teachable and something very easy for you to learn. All right, what are these pictures here? Think of when you have a kid and they first start playing golf or they first start playing baseball, and you see them go like this when they go to hit it. Or a little golfer starts off and they split their hands like this and they try to hit a ball or something like that. What you're seeing is the lack of strength. The bat might be too heavy, the club might be too heavy, and you're looking at the inability to be able to do this down at the bottom of the swing. And what they're doing is literally leaving what the bat or club is rotating around at the path of the hands the whole time. So that's the only time there would be any type of interest in trying to stop the actual wrists or hands when you come into the contact area. When you're able to transfer this above, then the input has become higher, and as everything is moved between the bat or the club and the golfer or the hitter. And that's what you see here from Ryan Sandberg in that picture, compared to these two, and how the kid couldn't handle the weight of the bat and is now about to rotate it around the hands. And Ryan Sandberg here, we're not interested in analyzing the wrists or hands. We're actually interested in analyzing what the bat is curving around at that point, and then seeing what he's doing in his body to influence that. That's the center of curvature. That's why it's so important. And let's move into the golf portion of this discussion now. I have two different golfers here in my Jacobs 3D system. One is purple is the path of the club head. You can see it's right before impact. I stopped it. Blue is the path of the hands, and the white is actually what the club is curving around. And you can see it's above the hands at that point, and then it's moving closer to the hands. So what that means is when that club is coming around, that golfer is really letting it move out, and it's moving much closer to his hands. This golfer, because of the structure of the wrists and how weak the wrists are going to have a much more difficult time trying to get the golf club to try to speed up or anything like that. So they're more or less trying to just let the club swing out. And there's a lot of advantages to that. So this particular person is being super efficient at letting the energy move out to the club. This golfer is a little different, and I tracked the white for the whole entire swing here. And what you'll notice is that what the actual golf club is rotating around never really moves close to the hands. This is what we define as the vaunted term a handle dragger, or too linear, too long. Here's what I mean. This golfer isn't going to be able to transfer as much energy. They're going to have to do more work and power from other parts of the body to get the same efficiency of somebody who might let it swing out smoothly. This golfer is going to look smoother in how they're letting the club swing out, and they're going to be doing a really good job at this particular point of having a lot easier time controlling the path of the swing at the bottom, in our opinion. There could come a point, though, where this goes too low. If what the actual club is rotating around goes too low and actually rotates around that point of the hands, they're going to have to do something to stop it. So that doesn't happen very often, maybe in a beginner or somebody who can't handle the weight of the club. In the next couple of frames here, this started to move up ever so slightly. So what that means is they transferred the energy to the club, and then as it came around, what the club rotated around moved up. So our analysis then starts to move up to this area, and we're looking at what the golfer's doing right around this area. This next phase of this moving up, we feel is the sweet spot zone. Look at Tiger in the year 2000. Map out what his club is actually curving around. And what it's curving around is somewhere right here in between the golfer and the club. And that's going to be the sweet spot of transferring energy to the club. back to the handle dragger. So this handle dragger, so to speak, and explain what that means is making the club rotate around something that's staying well inside the path of the hub the whole time. And you can see there's a huge space there. So what this golfer is doing is they're pulling the club this way, and what the actual club is rotating around is inside the hands the whole time. They're going to have a really fast looking body, because when the club moves out in this scenario and what the club is rotating around moves closer to the hub path, that slows the golfer down. They're going to have the kinematic things you see that would be like decelling the different parts of the body and letting the club swing out. This golfer, since the club is rotating inside the hub path for so long, they're going to be doing really fast different body moves. And their transfer to the club is going to be much later than this particular golfer. So it's going to be pretty desperate down at the bottom in how they transfer out to the club. We would never analyze the point where the golfer is trying to torque hand versus hand in this particular golf swing, because what the club is rotating around is nowhere near it. So when we look at this chart right here, we are seeing where the contributions are to the work and power of the club. And you could see that the left wrist is the weakest. The right wrist is actually more powerful than the left elbow in every one of these subjects. So the right wrist can do some work. And then you can see the right elbow is super high. So what does that mean? Well, in the expert golfer here who let this get close to his hub path and then moves it away in the next frame, what they're doing is they're putting the load close to the actual hub path, and then they're letting that load move up, and it's going right in between them and the golf club. And that's why they're getting more and a spike of why the elbow might be contributing later in the swing. So that right elbow, like you see golfers like Lee Trevino and Ben Hogan, and they get down there real low, and then you could see that right arm start to go. So when you're seeing that, you're seeing a curvature more like that. So how we let what the club is rotating around move out in relation to the hub path is the bane of our analysis. It's the bane and intertwined with everything we do, and it's super important. So what we have to do is come up with easy and simple solutions to help you with your golf game. And one would be the tabletop drill, one of my favorite drills. And what you do is you do a baseball level swing, and you just get used to letting the club swing out. Let the club swing out and see the club rotate around something just a little bit higher to your hands in that sweet spot zone, somewhere right in here. If it gets too high, you're going to start to see body moves late to try to get the club to rotate. So when you see this, that's like this part of the club becomes like a locked door. So it becomes much harder to be able to do anything here. So this gets shut back. And then when you accelerate the hands forward, and this has been compromised because the club is rotating much higher, now you're using other parts of your body to help try to transmit that pitching of the club down and letting it swing out into contact. So our concept of center of curvature, looking of how it relates to baseball and golf, is super interesting.